Welcome to the weekend edition of the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. I'm Michael Thompson, and hello, Sean Aylmer.
Hello, Michael.
Sean, on weekdays, it's all about the Fast 5, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. On the weekend, we still keep it to 5 minutes, but we're going to pick out the biggest business story of the week, the most remarkable story, a sleeper story, one that's flying under the radar a little bit, and then our favourite business story. So let's get going. What's the biggest story this week?
Inflation, interest rates and markets. Hopes of a rate cut rather than a rise pushed the ASX 200 to a new record high this week. Those hopes emerged from consumer price index figures, particularly the Reserve Bank's preferred trimmed mean measure, which shows inflation falling from 4% annualised to 3.9%. That put the market on a tear. Now, that's a touch risky because we're heading into earnings season. What happens if companies disappoint? At the moment, companies are what they call priced to perfection. Any slip-ups, and you could see share prices fall. In the US and Europe, you're actually seeing companies hitting targets, but their outlook statements are just a touch weak. Also this week, we had the Federal Reserve in the US coming out and saying it could start cutting interest rates as soon as September. So, put all that together. We're heading into profit reporting season. Equity markets are in Australia near record levels. Hopes that interest rates will fall. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, indeed. One other big business story this week, Sean, the collapse of Rex, the airline that started out as a regional operator connecting towns all over the country 3 years ago. It made a decision, though, to take on the Golden Triangle, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, signed a lease on 737 jets. Has not been a success. There's been angst at the board level for weeks now. At last, this week, the administrators were called in. Regional flights are continuing. The capital city flights were suspended immediately. Up to 600 people may lose their jobs. Virgin Australia moved very quickly. They took over leases for the Rex jets, helping to offset a global delay in delivery for new aircraft. It's also helping to fly those people who had capital city tickets. Just quickly, a political angle to this story as well, because the government's under pressure now to do what it needs to do to make sure that services are maintained to regional Australia, including even the potential to take a stake in the airline. It's a big story, Sean.
Sure was. Let me tell you about my most remarkable story. It comes from Donald Trump. Maybe we should ban Trump stories, but even by his standards, this week's efforts was truly remarkable. He questioned whether Kamala Harris identified as being black, and he was talking to an audience of black journalists. He actually suggested Ms. Harris had adopted her racial profile as a way to gain political advantage. He said she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person. Incredible. Her mother's Indian American, father Jamaican, always identified as being black. I don't have anything else to say to that, Michael. Remarkable, that man.
It certainly is an extraordinary story. Just quickly, we received this week, Sean, I'd say a pretty remarkable insight into the state of Australian business. Good news first, ASIC revealed that there were 3.38 million businesses registered in Australia at the end of June. 12 years ago, there were 1.88 million businesses. So that is pretty spectacular growth from 1.88 million to 3.38 million. A bit of bad news in all of these figures, though, as well. Last financial year, hospitality businesses failed at the fastest rate on record, rising food and energy prices and a reduction in what we're all spending to blame for that. The number of collapses in the sector jumped 50%. Total insolvencies were up to just over 11,000. A record, yes, but maybe really just a normalisation after the propping up of so many businesses during COVID.
I think you might be right there.
Sleeper story. What did you find for us? This is an interesting category. It's always
Look, I think this is going to be a big one. Weight loss drug supplies in Australia are set to improve dramatically as the company behind Ozempic prepares to provide its version of the medication that is specifically designed for patients seeking to shed kilograms. Drug maker Novo Nordisk's decision to finally launch its powerful Wegovy medication in Australia resolves the prospect of supply shortage in October. Until now, Australians have only been able to buy limited supplies of Ozempic, which is officially licensed as a diabetes treatment rather than for weight loss. Now, the Fin Review says Novo Nordisk is planning to begin offering its weight loss drug Wegovy this month. Patients will need a prescription from their doctor. The drug won't be subsidised, so it could be quite expensive. It comes in higher doses than Ozempic. That makes it more effective for weight loss. It has been approved by the Therapeutic Goods Administration since 2022, never sold in Australia. Just the fact that it is coming into this country is the beginning of a process whereby it's very possible that these weight loss drugs will become part of the health system, which actually changes everything. Big story.
Yeah, it certainly is. On to the favourite story of the week.
There's only one, Michael.
There is only one. It is the Olympics. I suspect, like many of us, have been plenty of households around Australia with a lot of late nights, very, very early mornings throughout the week, watching the heats at night, the finals in the morning, everything else in between. Hasn't it just been brilliant? Some spectacular performances by Australian athletes. The swimmers have been outstanding. But I'm sure I'm not alone in getting drawn into sports that I've never really kind of considered before, like the BMX with its flares and tail whips, and the commentary, and that it's just outstanding. Of course, it does belong in a business podcast, Sean, because it is big business. There was a lot of money paid for the TV rights by $305 million for 5 games. The brands like Woolies and Telstra and Qantas paying huge money to advertise, creativity of those ads, all of that kind of stuff. But really, it is just an incredible spectacle, isn't it? And it has been so enjoyable watching it, and we still have another whole week to go.
Yeah, I can't wait. I love the Olympics.
Yeah, fantastic. Definitely favourite story of the week. There we go, 5 minutes and pretty much everything you need to know in the world of business. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
We'll be back on Monday morning with the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Don't forget to hit follow and join us, please, online on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook and X. I'm Michael Thompson, and this is the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed.